So in the recent past, gambling and sports betting have really taken over as it became legal in more and more states. And with that happening, and there being these policies for these NFL players not allowed to gamble on the NFL at all, can't gamble on other sports if they're at their team's facility. With that happening, more and more guys have gotten penalized and suspended for breaking these NFL policies and procedures. And earlier today, it came out from Adam Schefter on Twitter, a handful of NFL players, including Colts cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers, are expected to receive season-long suspensions this week for allegedly gambling, sources tell ESPN. So we already knew about Isaiah Rodgers. I would say maybe a month or so ago, that news came out that Rodgers was being investigated by the NFL for breaking some gambling procedures. He came out and said, "I take full responsibility for my actions." But the other thing that's interesting in this report from Schefter is that he also says a handful of NFL players, including Isaiah Rodgers. So this means there are other players who have yet to be named who are expected to be suspended for the next season at least. And so the question right now is, who are these players? It really seems like so far, a majority of these suspensions have been to lower, more under the radar kind of players. I guess Calvin Ridley a few years back was a little more well known. Of course, Jameson Williams on the Lions was suspended for 6 games for placing a bet at the Lions facility. But it would be massive news. It would be pretty wild if a more prevalent player was suspended. I guess we'll find out hopefully later this week who that is. And I really just don't understand why, if you're an NFL player, you get anywhere near placing a bet when there's so many little things you're not supposed to do. I just think it's so risky when you're making millions and millions of dollars. You're willing to risk, your career on gambling $50 on your team, things like that. It just doesn't make much sense to me. And when you look at the NFL, with the sports betting industry really taking over and really becoming more and more prevalent over the past few seasons, we've seen so many more sportsbook ads, FanDuel, DraftKings, everything else being blasted between NFL games. The NFL is making tons of money off of sportsbooks. And I know some people could think, oh, why can't the players bet when the NFL is making so much money off of it? But the thing is with these players, the NFL doesn't want people to question the authenticity of the game and question if guys are throwing games because they have a bet on the line. And so they're being very, very strict in really coming down with these big, harsh punishments. And I assume their goal is to scare anyone away from ever making any kind of bet on the NFL, just because they don't want people to question whether or not there's any kind of fishy things going on in the NFL. There was that thing last year where people were saying the NFL was scripted, the NFL was rigged, and I just have obviously it was a joke. For the most part, that sort of became a meme. But I would say that the ability to actually full-on rig NFL games is pretty tough just because there's so many moving pieces. I think that, the occasional guy can maybe do something fishy. Maybe a ref, secretly has a bet on a game. But I would say overall, my guess is that guys aren't really trying to throw games over here for $50 bets. But the NFL is doing everything they can to make sure that these things don't continue, which I think is a smart move by the NFL to do this. And I'm really curious, as I said, to see who are these other players. Are they prevalent players? I would assume that if you're a more prevalent player, quarterback, that I don't see why you would even get close to trying to break any of these rules. And it's just not wise. It makes no sense to me why you'd even get close to the line. And I think the NFL is trying to do more and more to be like, guys, please don't do this. We are going to suspend you for a long, long time if you do this. And Isaiah Rodgers looks like to be the most recent casualty of these NFL gambling procedures. So we'll keep an eye out, see who these other players are. I'll keep you guys up to date. If you want to stay up to date with all NFL news I cover on this channel. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.